Let me tell you something about the moment your world shatters. It doesn't come with thunder or warning bells. It comes on a sunny Saturday afternoon in Atlanta, when the humidity hangs so thick you can taste it, when you're sitting on your porch swing, sipping sweet tea, and your granddaughter wraps her arms around you like she's drowning, and you're the only lifeboat in sight. That's when you feel it, the paper, warm and damp from her trembling hands, pressed into your palm like a secret that burns. Crinkle. That sound, I'll never forget it. The sound of everything I thought I knew, crumbling like dead leaves. My name is Patricia. I'm 68 years old, and I thought I'd seen it all. Lost my husband James to a drunk driver 30 years ago. Raised my daughter Jennifer alone, working double, no triple shifts, as an ER nurse. Bleeding myself dry so she could have everything I never did. Watched her grow up, get married, give me the most precious gift in this world, my granddaughter Emily. Emily. God, that child was my heartbeat walking around outside my body. From the moment they placed her in my arms 19 years ago, those big brown eyes staring up at me like I hung the moon, I made her a promise. "Gran's got you, baby girl," I whispered. "Nothing in this world will ever hurt you while I'm breathing." But sitting there on that porch, the wood creaking beneath me, cicadas screaming in the Georgia heat, I unfolded that note under the table. 4 words, just 4 words in her shaky handwriting. "Help me, please." My blood turned to ice water, then fire, then something colder and harder than both, because I knew, I knew, those bruises she'd been hiding. The way she flinched when her stepfather Michael raised his voice, how my daughter Jennifer had stopped looking me in the eye, the money, my money, James's life insurance, Emily's college fund, disappearing like smoke while they fed me lies about family expenses. They thought I was just some old woman, harmless, forgettable, past my prime. But here's what my daughter and her snake of a husband didn't know. What they couldn't have known because they'd stopped seeing me as anything but an ATM with a pulse. I spent 40 years in that ER, 40 years documenting abuse cases, testifying in court, holding broken women's hands while they found their courage, 40 years building connections with lawyers, cops, social workers, judges, learning every legal trick, every loophole, every way the system could protect the innocent and destroy the guilty. They didn't know who they were dealing with. That note wasn't a cry for help. It was a declaration of war. And I was about to show them what happens when you corner a grandmother who's got nothing left to lose and everything left to fight for. If you've ever had to fight for the people you love, hit that subscribe button right now, because this story, it's about to get biblical. To understand the rage that built in me like a Category 5 hurricane, you need to know what I sacrificed, what I gave for the people who betrayed me. March 15th, 1995. That's the date etched into my soul like a scar that never fades. James and I were supposed to grow old together, retire on the porch of that little house we'd saved for, watch our Jennifer graduate high school, then college. Simple dreams for simple people who'd worked hard for every inch of progress. Then some drunk fool got behind the wheel at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. James was driving home from his shift at the post office, 32 years old, strong as an oak, with a smile that could light up a room darker than midnight. The police said he died on impact, said he didn't suffer, but we suffered. Jennifer, just 10 years old, standing at his grave in a dress I'd borrowed from my sister because I couldn't afford a new one. Me, 28, with a mortgage, a child, and exactly $347 in our savings account. The life insurance was supposed to be our safety net, $50,000. Sounds like a fortune until you're trying to stretch it across decades. I put half into investments for Jennifer's future. The rest? Gone within 2 years on basic survival. So I did what Black women have always done. I worked. God, how I worked. Triple shifts at Grady Memorial Hospital became my religion. ER nursing, blood and chaos and people at their worst moments. I'd clock in Monday morning, work straight through to Wednesday night, sleep 4 hours, and do it again. My feet swelled so bad I couldn't wear real shoes, just those cheap foam clogs that fell apart every 3 months. I wore the same 2 pairs of scrubs for years, stitching up the holes until there was more thread than fabric. Jennifer never knew how many times the lights almost got cut off. Never knew I was eating peanut butter sandwiches for dinner so she could have real meals. Never knew I skipped my own birthday every year because her birthday was 3 weeks later and I couldn't afford both. But she had everything that mattered: school clothes that fit, field trip money, SAT prep courses. When college acceptance letters started arriving, Spelman, Georgia State, Emory, I cried for the first time since James's funeral. "Mama, how will we pay for this?" she asked, holding that Spelman acceptance like it might disappear. I smiled through tears. "Baby, you let me worry about that." More shifts, more exhaustion, more sacrifices I'll never tell her about. But Jennifer graduated summa cum laude with a degree in business administration and 0 student debt. Not a single dollar. I made sure of it. She was my victory, my proof that losing James hadn't destroyed us. It had forged us into something stronger. When she landed that corporate job at Delta Airlines at 25, making more in 1 year than I'd made in 5, I finally let myself breathe. "We made it, Mama," she said, taking me to dinner at a fancy restaurant I'd never have spent money on. "You made it, baby," I corrected. "You earned every bit of this." But pride comes before the fall, doesn't it? 3 years later, at 28, Jennifer came home with stars in her eyes. "Mama, I met someone. His name is Michael Johnson. He's wonderful." The way she said it, breathless, glowing, blind, should have been my first warning. Love makes you stupid. I knew that, but I wanted her happy. Wanted her to have what James and I had before that drunk driver stole our future. I should have trusted my gut. That first dinner when Michael showed up at my door, all charm and white teeth, something in his eyes was wrong. Too smooth, too calculated, like he was playing a part instead of being a person. But Jennifer was in love, and I'd sacrificed too much to watch her be alone. So I smiled, shook his hand, and welcomed the devil into our family. Michael Johnson came into our lives like a summer storm, exciting at first, dangerous if you paid attention to the warning signs. He worked in sales, or so he claimed. "Medical equipment," he'd say with that practiced smile, "helping hospitals run better, making a real difference." The words sounded right, but something about the way he delivered them felt rehearsed, like a snake oil salesman who'd perfected his pitch. The charm offensive started immediately. Flowers arrived at Jennifer's office every Friday, not grocery store bouquets, expensive arrangements with roses and lilies that cost more than I spent on groceries in a week, dinner reservations at restaurants I'd only read about. Weekend trips to Savannah, Charleston, Miami. He love-bombed my daughter with an intensity that should have scared her. "Isn't he amazing, Mama?" Jennifer gushed over coffee one Saturday morning. "He treats me like a queen." "That's nice, baby," I said carefully. "But what's he like when the romance wears off, when it's just regular Tuesday nights?" She laughed. "You worry too much. Michael's perfect." Perfect. That word should have been a red flag the size of Texas. I noticed things Jennifer was too dazzled to see, how Michael steered her away from her friends at gatherings, monopolizing her attention, how he'd call 3-4 times during our lunch dates, asking where she was, who she was with, when she'd be home, how his jaw tightened when she mentioned her male co-workers. "Jennifer," I said once, 6 months into their relationship, "does Michael ever make you feel controlled?" "Controlled?" She looked genuinely confused. "Mama, he's protective. That's different. He loves me." 6 months later, they were engaged. Michael proposed at some fancy restaurant, got down on one knee with a ring that probably cost more than he should have spent. Jennifer called me sobbing with joy. "I'm getting married, Mama. Can you believe it?" I wanted to believe it. Wanted to trust that my baby girl had found her James. The wedding planning revealed more cracks. Michael had opinions about everything: the venue, the flowers, even Jennifer's dress. "I think something more modest would suit you better," he'd say when she showed him her favorites. always couched as suggestions, always delivered with that smile, but always getting his way. Then came the biggest red flag of all. "Mama," Jennifer said quietly one evening, "Michael's family can't contribute much to the wedding. His parents are having financial troubles. Would you be able to—" The number took my breath away. $15,000. My entire emergency fund. The cushion I'd built over years of careful saving, gone in one check for a wedding that felt more like Michael's production than Jennifer's dream. But I wrote that check, because that's what mothers do. The wedding was beautiful, I'll give him that. Jennifer looked radiant in her gown, but during the reception, I watched Michael work the room, watched how he positioned himself between Jennifer and her college friends, how he cut conversations short when she was laughing too hard with someone else, how his hand on her lower back looked loving to everyone else, but felt controlling to me. "Dance with your new son-in-law?" Michael asked, extending his hand during the mother-son dance. Up close, his cologne was suffocating. His grip was just a fraction too tight. "You take care of my daughter," I said quietly. His smile never wavered. "Of course, Patricia. She's everything to me." But his eyes, cold, calculating, told a different story. 1 year later, Emily was born. That changed everything. When they placed my granddaughter in my arms for the first time, when those enormous brown eyes locked onto mine, something in my chest cracked open and flooded with light. She had James's eyes, his gentle spirit. "Hey there, baby girl," I whispered. "I'm your gran, and I promise you, nothing in this world will ever hurt you while I'm here." Jennifer was exhausted, overwhelmed. Michael was busy with work, so I became Emily's primary caregiver, feeding her, changing her, rocking her through colicky nights, teaching her to walk, to talk, to read. Every free moment I had went to that child. When Emily turned 2, I made the biggest financial decision of my life. The life insurance money from James, carefully invested and grown over 20 years, had become $180,000. Combined with my own savings, I had enough to secure Emily's future. I set up an education trust fund, $180,000, managed by a bank, with Jennifer as the guardian trustee until Emily turned 18. Then everything would transfer to Emily directly. "This is for college," I told Jennifer firmly, "for Emily's future, not for vacations or cars or anything else, you understand?" "Of course, Mama," Jennifer said, hugging me. "This is so generous. Emily's so lucky to have you." Michael watched from the doorway, silent. That should have been warning enough. For 5 years, everything seemed fine. I saw Emily constantly, babysitting, weekend sleepovers, teaching her to bake my mama's sweet potato pie. Jennifer seemed happy, or at least content. Michael kept his distance from me, which I preferred, but storms don't announce themselves. They build in the distance, gathering power until they're right on top of you, and this storm was about to make landfall. The change started subtly, like cancer that grows silently before it reveals itself. Michael lost his job when Emily was 6. Restructuring, he claimed, but something about the way he said it, bitter, defensive, made me wonder. Within weeks, the beer bottles appeared. Just 1 or 2 at first, then 6-packs, then cases. "It's temporary," Jennifer said when I asked about it, "just until he finds something new." Temporary stretched into months, then a year. The visits started getting restricted. I'd call to arrange picking up Emily for the weekend, and Jennifer would have excuses. "We have plans. Emily's not feeling well. Maybe next week, Mama." When I did see Emily, something was off. She was quieter, more withdrawn. The vibrant 7-year-old who used to dance around my kitchen while we baked cookies now sat still, hands folded, eyes watchful. "You okay, baby girl?" I asked her once. She nodded too quickly. "Yes, Gran." But her eyes said different. Phone calls became impossible. I'd call Jennifer's cell and get voicemail, call the house, and Michael would answer with clipped, hostile responses. "She's busy. She'll call you back." She never did. I started driving by their house, that modest ranch in the suburbs with the wilting garden and peeling paint. Sometimes I'd see Emily's face in the window, pale and hollow. She'd wave, frantic, until Jennifer pulled her away from the glass. My neighbor Susan, retired cop with eyes that miss nothing, started mentioning things she'd noticed. We were having coffee on my porch one Sunday when she leaned in close. "Patricia, I've seen that child of yours at the grocery store. The little one, Emily. She had bruises on her arms. Said she fell playing soccer." My chest tightened. "Emily doesn't play soccer." "I know," Susan said quietly. "And those bruises, they looked like finger marks, like someone grabbed her hard." I confronted Jennifer the next day, showed up at her house unannounced, pushed past Michael when he tried to block the door. "Is he hurting you?" I demanded. "Is he hurting Emily?" Jennifer's laugh was hollow, practiced. "You're being paranoid, Mama. Michael's a good man. He's just stressed. The job search is hard." "Those bruises on Emily? She's clumsy. Kids fall, Mama. Stop trying to create drama where there isn't any." But her eyes, God, her eyes were screaming the truth her mouth wouldn't say. Michael appeared behind her, hand on her shoulder, possessive, controlling. "I think you should leave, Patricia. You're upsetting my wife." My wife, not Jennifer, like she was property he owned. I left, but I didn't stop watching. The real betrayal, the one that cut deepest, came through the mail 3 months later, bank statements for Emily's trust fund. I reviewed them quarterly, meticulous about tracking every dollar of my grandbaby's future. The balance should have been growing, investments appreciating, interest compounding. Instead, it was shrinking. $45,000 gone. Withdrawals over the past 18 months, small ones at first. $2,000 here, $3,500 there, then bigger chunks, $10,000, $15,000, all authorized by Jennifer as trustee. My hands shook as I called her. "Jennifer, we need to talk, now." She came to my house with Michael in tow, like he was her handler. Her face was harder than I'd ever seen it. "The trust fund," I said, sliding the statements across my kitchen table. "Where did this money go?" "Family expenses," she said flatly. "Medical bills, home repairs, things you wouldn't understand because you're not the one struggling to keep a household together." "That money is for Emily's education, and we're her parents," Michael cut in, his voice rising. "We decide what's best for our family, not you. That money might be in her name, but Jennifer manages it, legally." The word legally dripped with threat. "You stole from your daughter," I said quietly, my eyes locked on Jennifer. "You stole from my granddaughter, money that came from your daddy's death, from my blood and sweat." Jennifer stood, face flushed. "It's always about what you sacrificed, isn't it, Mama? What you gave up. Well, maybe I'm tired of being your martyr story. This is my family. Stay out of our business." Slam. The door shook my whole house. I sat in that kitchen for hours, statements spread before me, Emily's future bleeding away in black and white numbers. Then my phone rang, late, past midnight, unknown number. "Gran?" Emily's voice, barely a whisper, terrified. "Gran, please don't hang up." "Baby girl, what's wrong?" "I'm hiding in my closet. They're fighting. Michael's drunk and he pushed Mom into the wall. She's crying, but she won't leave. And earlier, he grabbed my arm because I didn't do the dishes fast enough. Squeezed so hard I thought the bone would break." My vision blurred red. "Where did he grab you?" "My upper arm. I have his fingerprints bruised into my skin, Gran. I can count them. 5 purple marks." "What else?" My voice came out deadly calm. The story poured out. Years of escalating abuse. Michael's gambling addiction, the real reason he was always busy, always needing money. How he'd scream at Emily, call her worthless, stupid, a burden. How Jennifer had stopped protecting her, stopped fighting back, just became smaller and smaller. "The money," Emily whispered. "Your money, Gran. The college fund. He's been taking it for casinos, for sports betting. Mom lets him because she's afraid of what he'll do if she says no. Last month, he took $8,000 in one withdrawal, said he had a sure thing. Lost it all. Listen to me carefully, I said, every word measured. Can you get to your phone without them hearing? Yes. I'm going to text you a number. You save it as pizza place so they don't see. If he hurts you again, if he even looks at you wrong, you call that number. It's my friend Barbara. She's a lawyer. She'll know what to do. Can you do that? I'm scared, Gran. I know, baby, but Gran's got a plan now. This doesn't end well for them. I promise you that. After we hung up, I didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. I paced my living room, 40 years of nursing experience running through my head. Every abuse case I'd documented, every legal intervention I'd witnessed, every trick I'd learned about how to protect the innocent and make the guilty pay. They thought I was just an old woman, a wallet they could drain, someone they could isolate and ignore. They had no idea what they'd just awakened. By dawn, I'd made my decision. This wasn't about forgiveness or family reconciliation. This was about systematic, legal, absolute destruction. I would take everything from them that they'd stolen from us, and I would make sure Michael Johnson never hurt another person again. Not rash, not emotional, calculated. The war had begun. They just didn't know it yet. Wars aren't won by rage alone. They're won by strategy, by alliances, by people who understand that justice is a weapon, best wielded with precision. The morning after Emily's midnight call, I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't do anything that would waste the energy I needed for what came next. Instead, I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad, and started writing names. Barbara Chen, the first name on my list. We'd met 30 years ago in the Grady Memorial break room, both exhausted ER nurses working the overnight shift, bonding over stale coffee and the shared trauma of what we witnessed. Barbara left nursing after 10 years, went to law school at 35, and became one of Atlanta's most respected family attorneys. She specialized in cases nobody else wanted: domestic violence, child abuse, financial exploitation of the elderly. People think the law is about right and wrong, she'd told me once over lunch. It's not. It's about evidence and strategy. You want justice? You better come prepared for war. I called her at 7 a.m. She answered on the second ring. Patricia, what's wrong? I need your help. My granddaughter is being abused and my daughter is complicit. They've stolen $45,000 from a trust I set up. I need to destroy them legally, and I need it done right. Silence. Then, come to my office, 10 o'clock. Bring everything you have. Barbara's office was downtown, 20th floor with a view of the city I'd bled for. Her walls were covered with photos, women and children she'd saved, new lives she'd helped build from ashes. She was smaller than me, barely 5 feet tall, but she had the presence of someone twice her size. I laid it all out, the bank statements, Emily's bruises Susan had witnessed, the midnight phone call, Michael's gambling, Jennifer's enabling, the systematic theft. Barbara listened without interrupting, her pen flying across her notepad. When I finished, she looked up with eyes that had seen too much darkness but refused to look away. This is prosecutable, she said. Criminal theft, child endangerment, domestic violence. But we need more than your granddaughter's word and some bank statements. We need documentation, photos, recordings, a pattern we can prove beyond reasonable doubt. Tell me what you need. I'll get it. She smiled, sharp, dangerous. First, we need a private investigator. I know someone. Raymond Torres, former APD detective, retired early after a shooting. He's thorough, discreet, and he hates abusers more than anyone I know. Set it up. Second, your granddaughter needs support. She's 19, legally an adult, which works in our favor. But she's also traumatized. I'm going to refer her to Nancy Williams at the Fulton County Women's Shelter. She's a therapist who specializes in abuse victims. If Emily's willing to work with her, it'll strengthen our case and help her heal. She'll do it. She wants out. Third, Barbara leaned forward, her voice dropping. This takes time. Weeks, maybe months. Can you maintain a facade? Play the oblivious grandmother while we build an airtight case? I thought of Emily's voice, terrified and broken. thought of Jennifer's cold dismissal, thought of Michael's hands leaving purple fingerprints on my grandbaby's skin. "I've got more patience than they've got sins," I said. "And trust me, that's saying something." Barbara's smile widened. "Then let's go to war." Raymond Torres met me at a coffee shop in Midtown 2 days later, mid-50s, graying at the temples, with the quiet intensity of someone who'd seen humanity's worst and cataloged every detail. He ordered black coffee, no sugar, cop coffee. "Barbara says you need surveillance and documentation," he said without preamble. "Tell me about the target." I showed him Michael's photo from Jennifer's Facebook, all smiles and false charm. Michael Johnson abuses his wife and stepdaughter, gambles compulsively, stealing from a trust fund. "I need proof of everything." Raymond studied the photo like he was memorizing a face he'd soon hunt. "The gambling will be easiest to document. Casinos, sports bars, bookie operations. I'll start there. Branch out to the domestic situation. But I need to be clear. I can photograph him in public, track his movements, document spending. But inside the home? That's trickier. The victim is 19. If she consents to recording devices in her own living space, is that legal?" His eyebrows rose. "In Georgia? Yes. Single-party consent state. If she's part of the conversation being recorded, it's admissible. Smart. I was an ER nurse for 40 years, documented hundreds of abuse cases. I know what evidence looks like." Raymond nodded slowly, respect flickering in his eyes. "I'll start tomorrow. Retainer is $3,000 up front, $150 an hour after that." I wrote the check without hesitation. Money I'd saved for retirement, for emergencies. Well, this was the emergency of my life. Susan came over that evening with a casserole and determination. We sat on my porch, the setting sun painting the sky blood orange. "You're going after them," she said. Not a question. "Yes." "Good." "I'll testify to what I've seen. The bruises on Emily, the way that man looks at people, like they're obstacles, not human beings. 30 years on the force, I learned to spot predators. Michael Johnson is textbook. They'll try to discredit you, say you're just a nosy neighbor with an agenda." Susan laughed, harsh and knowing. "Let them try. I've testified in over 200 cases. My record speaks for itself." Alley number 3, locked in. The final piece was Emily herself. I texted her the code we'd established. "Weather's nice today?" Meaning, "Can you talk safely?" She responded with a cloud emoji. Not safe. 3 hours later, a sun. I called immediately. "Gran," she whispered, "I'm in the bathroom, only have a few minutes." "Listen carefully, baby. I'm building a case. Legal, official, ironclad. But I need your help." "Can you do some things for me?" "Anything." "First, I'm getting you a second phone, a cheap prepaid that they don't know about. My friend Barbara will drop it at your school tomorrow. Hide it somewhere they'll never look. That's our lifeline." "Okay." "Second, there's a therapist named Nancy Williams. She works with the women's shelter. I'm going to set up phone sessions for you, secret, safe, just to talk. She'll help you process what's happening and document the abuse officially. You comfortable with that?" A shaky breath. "Yes, God, yes, I need someone to talk to who understands." Third, and this is crucial, I need you to record conversations, your phone, voice memos. Whenever Michael or your mother says something threatening or admits to the abuse, Georgia is a one-party consent state. If you're part of the conversation, the recording is legal. Can you do that? Silence, then stronger. "I can do that." Pride surged through me. "That's my girl. You're not a victim anymore, Emily. You're a survivor gathering evidence. You're a warrior in training." "When does this end, Gran? When do I get out?" "Soon, baby, I promise. But we have to be smart, methodical. One wrong move and they could hide assets, flee, make this harder. Trust me?" "With my life." Small victory. The phone arrived the next day. Emily texted me from it that night. Saved as study group chat. They'll never think twice. The War Council was assembled. The pieces were moving into position. And Michael Johnson. He had no idea the net was already closing around his throat. Playing nice with people you want to destroy requires a special kind of discipline. You smile when you want to scream. You pour tea when you want to pour poison. You hug people whose necks you're fantasizing about wringing. I called Jennifer on a sunny Tuesday morning, voice dripping honey. "Baby, I've been thinking. It's been too long since we had a real family dinner. Why don't you all come over Sunday? I'll make my pot roast, those garlic mashed potatoes Michael loves. We can catch up properly." Suspicion crackled through the phone line. "Mama, after our last conversation, I was upset, that's all. But you're my daughter. Emily's my grandbaby. Family is family, right? Let's not let money come between us." The magic words. Let's not let money come between us. Translation. I'm backing off. You win. I'll talk to Michael, Jennifer said, relief obvious. Wonderful. Sunday at 2. Tell Michael I'm making peach cobbler too. They thought I was surrendering. How beautifully, perfectly stupid. Sunday arrived humid and heavy. I'd been cooking since dawn. Pot roast, green beans, cornbread, the works. The table was set like nothing was wrong, like we were a normal family gathering for a normal meal. They arrived at 2:15, Michael first through the door, wearing cargo shorts and a polo that strained across his beer belly. His eyes swept my house like he was appraising property, calculating value. "Patricia," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Thanks for having us." "Of course, son." The word son tasted like bile, but I smiled through it. Come in, come in." Jennifer followed, thinner than I remembered, makeup heavy around her left eye. Covering something? Emily trailed behind, shoulders hunched, wearing long sleeves despite the heat. "Baby girl!" I opened my arms, and Emily fell into them, her body trembling. In that brief embrace, she pressed her new phone into my hand. I slipped it into my apron pocket. Dinner was a performance worthy of Broadway. I served them, refilled their glasses, laughed at Michael's unfunny jokes. He dominated the conversation, talking about his big deals that were about to come through, the investment opportunities he was evaluating, all code for, still unemployed, still gambling, still living off stolen money. "Must be tough, the job market these days," I said sympathetically. "So many companies downsizing." "It's not about finding a job," Michael said, stabbing his pot roast. "It's about finding the right job. I'm not settling for less than I'm worth." "You're worth nothing," I thought. And soon everyone will know it. Emily ate in silence, eyes down. Jennifer kept glancing at her, then at Michael, like a bird watching for predators. Then Michael's true colors bled through, like they always did. "Emily, you gonna sit there like a lump all day?" he snapped. "Maybe help clear some plates? Or is that too much to ask from someone who contributes nothing to the household?" Emily flinched, started to stand. "She's fine," I said quickly, voice still light. "She's my guest. I'll clear." Michael laughed, sharp, ugly. "Your guest, right. You know what she is? A freeloader. 19 years old, no job, no ambition, just sitting around eating our food and taking up space. If I had my way, she'd be out on her ass learning what the real world's like." "Michael," Jennifer murmured, "that's enough." "Is it? Her grandmother spoils her. Fills her head with these fairy tale ideas about college and nursing school. Know what nurses make? Barely enough to survive. But sure. Let's waste money on a dead-end career for a girl who can't even wash dishes without whining." I watched Emily's face crumble, watched my granddaughter absorb his venom like she deserved it. Every cell in my body screamed to throw him out, to tell him I knew everything, to watch him choke on his own cruelty. Instead, I smiled. Well, we all have different paths. Who wants peach cobbler? But later, in the kitchen, Emily helped me despite Michael's objections. As I ran water for dishes, she lifted her sleeve. Fresh bruises, angry purple-black marks circling her forearm like a bracelet of violence. "Last night," she whispered, "I asked if I could apply for a part-time job at Target. He said I was too stupid to work retail. When I argued, he grabbed me, dragged me to my room, and locked the door from the outside. I was in there for 6 hours. My hands gripped the sink so hard my knuckles went white. Did you record anything? She nodded, pulling out the secret phone. Yesterday's fight, and just now what he said at dinner. Small victory, number 2. I uploaded the audio files to a cloud drive Barbara had set up. Michael's voice clear as crystal. If I had my way, she'd be out on her ass. Threats of homelessness, perfect evidence of an unsafe living environment. Before they left, I hugged Emily again, whispered, "Soon, baby. Hold on just a little longer." She nodded against my shoulder. Then they were gone, back to that house of horrors. I stood on my porch watching their car disappear. In my pocket, Emily's recordings. In my mind, Michael's face when he finally realized he'd been recorded, documented, caught. Patience, I told myself. Patience is the deadliest weapon. Money leaves trails like blood at a crime scene. You just need to know where to look. Raymond called me 3 days after our Sunday dinner. "Got something. You should see this in person." We met at his office, a small space above a hardware store in East Atlanta. Photos covered his desk like a gallery of shame. "Michael Johnson's a creature of habit," Raymond said, spreading the images. "Same casinos, same bars, same routine." The first photo showed Michael entering the Cherokee Casino at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. The second showed him at a sports bar at 2 p.m., watching games on multiple screens. The third, Michael at an illegal bookmaking operation in Bankhead, handing cash through a window. "He's there every day," Raymond continued, "sometimes twice. I've documented 14 separate visits to gambling establishments in the past 2 weeks. Conservative estimate? He's spending $800 to $1,200 per day." The math made my head spin. That was $5,600 to $8,400 per week. Where was that money coming from? "Can you get financial records?" I asked. "Already subpoenaed through Barbara. Bank statements, credit card records, ATM withdrawals. It's all here." He pulled out a thick folder. "Want the summary? Give me everything." Raymond laid it out like a prosecutor. In the past 18 months, Michael had made systematic withdrawals from Emily's trust fund. The pattern was clear. Lose money gambling, withdraw from trust, gamble again, lose again. A death spiral funded by my granddaughter's future. "Total stolen from the trust, $47,850, Raymond said. "But it gets worse. He's also got credit card debt of $23,000, personal loans from predatory lenders totaling $15,000, and," he pulled out another document, "he owes $60,000 to an underground gambling syndicate based out of College Park." My blood ran cold. How underground? The kind that breaks legs when you don't pay. I've got a source with APD. They've been watching this operation for months. Michael's name is on their list. He's got 2 weeks to come up with $20,000 or things get violent. Dangerous men after Michael. Part of me wanted to let nature take its course, but Emily and Jennifer were in that house. "What about work?" I asked. He claimed to be evaluating opportunities. Raymond's smile was grim. He hasn't had steady employment in 14 months. Gets fired from sales positions for showing up drunk or not showing up at all. Last job was at a medical supply company. Lasted 3 weeks before they caught him stealing samples to sell. Stealing? Yep. They didn't press charges, just fired him quietly. But I got the HR report. It's documented. Small victory, number 3. The financial paper trail was complete. Every withdrawal, every debt, every lie exposed in black and white. Barbara could use this to prosecute for embezzlement and prove Michael was a danger to Emily's financial security. But Raymond wasn't finished. Found something else. Jennifer's email account. He pushed his laptop toward me. "Your daughter's been communicating with Michael about the trust fund. Here." I read the email chain, dated 3 months ago. Jennifer to Michael. He's asking again about the college fund. What do I tell her? Michael to Jennifer. "Tell the old woman it's fine. She's not going to audit it. She's too trusting. Besides, what's she going to do? She's 68 years old. Not exactly sharp anymore." Jennifer to Michael. "I feel bad lying to her. She worked so hard for that money." Michael to Jennifer. "You feel bad? I'm the one drowning here. Those guys from College Park are threatening me. I need another 10K. Your mother won't even notice. She's got dementia setting in anyway. My vision blurred. Dementia. I ran marathons of trauma in the ER for 4 decades. My mind was sharp as it ever was. Another email dated 6 weeks ago, Jennifer to Michael. Mama's asking about Emily's bruises. I told her she's clumsy, but I don't think she believed me. Michael to Jennifer. Then keep them apart. Your mother's a problem. She's always been a problem. Maybe it's time we looked into getting power of attorney. If she's declared incompetent, we control everything. The words hit like physical blows. They weren't just stealing from Emily. They were planning to steal from me, to have me declared incompetent, take control of my assets, drain me completely. There's more, Raymond said quietly. This one's from Jennifer to her friend Keisha. The email was plaintive, desperate. Jennifer to Keisha. I know what we're doing is wrong. I know Mama doesn't deserve this. But Michael says if I don't help him, he'll leave me. And I can't. I can't be alone again. I can't be my mother, working myself to death, raising a kid alone. I need him, even if he's terrible. Is that crazy? Rage and heartbreak warred in my chest. My daughter was so broken by fear of abandonment that she'd betray her own mother and child. Michael had poisoned her completely. Get me everything, I said. Every email, every text, every receipt. I want a dossier that could bury him under the prison. Raymond nodded. Already building it. But Patricia, you need to be careful. Men like Michael, when they're cornered, they get dangerous. Let him try, I said. I face down crackheads with knives in the ER at 3 a.m. He doesn't scare me. But driving home, hands tight on the wheel, I admitted the truth. I wasn't scared of Michael hurting me. I was scared of what I'd do to him if he touched my granddaughter one more time. Timing is everything in warfare. You don't fire all your weapons at once. You deploy them strategically, watching your enemies scramble as each bomb drops. Barbara filed for a formal trust audit on a Monday morning. The letter went out from the bank's legal department, official and cold. This notice is to inform you that the Emily Johnson Education Trust, managed under guardianship of Jennifer Johnson, has been flagged for mandatory audit due to irregular withdrawal patterns. All parties with fiduciary responsibility are required to provide documentation of all expenditures within 30 days. Failure to comply may result in legal action and criminal charges for financial mismanagement. I imagined Jennifer opening that letter, the color draining from her face, her hands shaking as she reached for her phone. She called me at 10:37 a.m. I let it ring 3 times before answering, calm as Sunday morning. Mama? Her voice was high, panicked. Mama, did you get a letter from the bank? Letter? What letter, baby? About Emily's trust fund. They're saying there's an audit, that someone reported irregular withdrawals. Did you do this? I let silence hang heavy. Then, Jennifer, I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe it's just routine. Banks do that sometimes, don't they? Routine? Mama, they're threatening legal action. They want documentation of every withdrawal going back 2 years. Well, that shouldn't be a problem if everything was used appropriately, right? My voice was so sweet it could rot teeth. Family expenses, you said. Medical bills, home repairs. You have receipts for all that, don't you? Silence. Beautiful, incriminating silence. Mama, you don't understand the pressure we've been under. Then explain it to the bank, dear. I'm sure they'll understand. Let me know how it goes. Love you. I hung up before she could respond. If they only knew that routine audit was me pulling strings through Barbara and 40 years of professional connections. That every word they said now was being recorded, documented, weaponized. Raymond sent me a text at 2 p.m. Intercepted communication, check email. Michael's text to Jennifer sent at 1:43 p.m. Michael, that old bitch is onto us. She must have requested the audit. We need to shut her up. Jennifer, how? She's my mother. Michael, I don't care. She's a problem. Maybe she needs to have an accident, fall down some stairs, hit her head. Old people have strokes all the time. Jennifer, you're scaring me. Michael, good. Be scared. Because if this blows up, we're both going to prison. Your mother's the key. We need her out of the picture. My hands didn't shake reading those words. They should have. Normal people would be terrified, but I'd spent 40 years triaging gunshot wounds and overdoses. Death threats from a cowardly gambling addict barely registered. I forwarded it to Barbara with a single line. This enough for a restraining order? Her response came within minutes. This is enough for police involvement. He just threatened murder. Forwarding to DA's office now. That night, my phone rang at 9 p.m. Jennifer, drunk by the sound of it. Mama? She was crying. Mama, I need to talk to you. I'm listening. It's all falling apart. The audit, Michael's freaking out, Emily's been so quiet and strange lately. I think I've made terrible mistakes. This was it. Confrontation number 1. The moment she'd break and admit everything. What kind of mistakes? Jennifer? The money. We took money from Emily's trust, a lot of money, and I knew it was wrong, but Michael said we had no choice, that we'd pay it back. But we never did. And now there's an audit and they're going to find out and… Why didn't you come to me? I asked. If you needed help, why steal from your own daughter? Because you'd judge me. You'd tell me I was weak for staying with Michael, that I was throwing away everything you sacrificed, and you'd be right, Mama. You'd be completely right. So you chose him over Emily, over me, over yourself. He said he'd change. Jennifer sobbed. He promised he'd stop gambling, stop drinking, be better. And I believed him because I needed to believe him. Because the alternative, being alone, failing, becoming like… She stopped herself. But I finished it. Becoming like me? I didn't mean… Yes, you did. You looked at my life, working myself to death for you, sacrificing everything, ending up alone, and decided that was worse than staying with a man who hurts your child. That's what you chose, Jennifer. That's who you decided to be. Mama, please. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to cooperate with that audit. You're going to provide every receipt, every document they request, and then you're going to hope, pray, that the district attorney shows you mercy, because if you don't, I will personally make sure you lose everything. Your daughter, your freedom, your dignity. Do you understand me? You do that to your own daughter? You did worse, to yours. I hung up. My hands were shaking now, not from fear, from fury so pure it burned like ice. But there was no time for emotion. Raymond had sent another file, Michael and Jennifer's planning session, recorded via Emily's hidden phone. Michael, your mother's the problem. She always has been, sticking her nose where it doesn't belong, acting like she owns us. Jennifer, what do you want me to do? Michael, we need to get her declared incompetent. Dementia, early Alzheimer's, something. Then we get power of attorney, control her assets. She's got that house worth at least $300,000. Her retirement accounts. We liquidate it all. Pay off my debts. Start fresh. Jennifer, that's fraud. That's elder abuse. Michael, so is taking money from the trust, and you've got no problem with that. Your mother's old. She's had her life. Why should we suffer because she's clinging to assets she'll never use? Jennifer, I can't do this anymore. I can't. Michael, yes you can, because if you don't, I'm gone. And you'll be right back where you started. Alone, broke, raising a kid nobody wants. Is that what you want? Jennifer, after a long pause. No. Michael, then you know what to do. I listened to that recording 3 times, memorized every word, felt each syllable like a knife wound, my own daughter, planning my destruction, discussing my elimination like I was a problem to be solved rather than the woman who gave her life. But underneath the betrayal was something else. Sadness. Because Jennifer wasn't evil. She was broken. And Michael had exploited every crack until she shattered. That didn't mean she'd escape consequences. But it meant maybe there was still something worth saving in her. Michael, though? He was beyond redemption, and his reckoning was coming faster than he knew. Liberation doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happens in small, deliberate steps, each one building toward freedom. I met Emily at Piedmont Park on a Wednesday afternoon. She'd told her parents she had a study group, and for once they didn't question it, probably too distracted by the audit panic. She looked thinner than ever, shadows under her eyes like bruises. But when she saw me, something in her face lifted. Hope, maybe, or just relief at seeing someone who loved her without conditions. "Hey, baby girl," I said, hugging her tight. We found a bench under a magnolia tree, far from prying eyes. "How bad is it at home?" I asked. "Worse every day. Michael's paranoid, snapping at everything. He accused me of spying on him yesterday. Mom's drinking more. They fight all night, then ignore each other all day. It's like living in a war zone." "Not much longer," I promised, "but I need your help with something. You ready to start building your escape route?" Her eyes widened. "What do you mean?" I pulled out papers from my bag. First, a bank account in your name only. I opened it yesterday at a different bank than your trust fund. Put in $5,000 to start. That's from me, not touchable by anyone else. This is your emergency fund. If things get dangerous, you use this to get out immediately. Emily stared at the bank card like it was a weapon. In a way, it was. Second, job applications. You're 19, capable, smart. You need independence. I pulled some strings with my old nursing colleagues. There's a position open at Northside Hospital in the cafeteria. Part-time, flexible hours. They'll hire you if you want it. I want it, she said immediately. God, yes. I've been asking for permission to work for months, but Michael says no. Michael doesn't get a vote anymore. This is your life. You're claiming it back. But how do I get there? They track my car's GPS, check my phone location constantly. We'll figure out the logistics. You tell them you're studying at the library. I'll pick you up around the corner. Small steps, baby. We build your freedom piece by piece. Small victory, 4. Emily started work the following week. 3 shifts, 12 hours total. She told Michael and Jennifer she'd joined an intensive study program. They barely noticed. But I noticed. Noticed the way she stood straighter after her first paycheck. How her voice got steadier each time we talked. How hope started replacing despair in her eyes. The third piece of Emily's escape was Nancy Williams, the therapist. They had their first session via phone, with Emily locked in her bathroom pretending to take a bath. An hour of unburdening years of abuse, manipulation, and gaslighting. Afterward, Nancy called me. "Your granddaughter is remarkably strong," Nancy said, "but she's also deeply traumatized. The abuse has been systematic, emotional, physical, financial. She's exhibiting symptoms of PTSD, depression, and learned helplessness. Can you help her? I already am. But Patricia, you need to understand. Healing isn't linear. She's going to have setbacks, moments where she doubts leaving is possible. Your job is to be her anchor, constant, steady, unshakable. I can do that. I know you can. You've been doing it her whole life." The sessions continued twice weekly. Emily's transformation was subtle but unmistakable. She started questioning Michael's insults instead of accepting them, started documenting incidents in a journal Nancy suggested, started seeing herself not as a victim, but as a survivor, building evidence. Then came the miracle neither of us expected. Emily had always dreamed of becoming a nurse, talked about it since she was 6 years old, playing with toy stethoscopes and bandaging her dolls. But Michael had crushed that dream systematically, calling it unrealistic, too hard for someone like her, a waste of money. One Thursday afternoon, Emily met me at the park with something in her hands, an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Just open it." Inside was an acceptance letter. Georgia State University, Bachelor of Science in Nursing program, full academic scholarship based on her high school grades, and an essay she'd written about healthcare disparities. I applied in secret, Emily whispered, tears streaming. Used my school's computer lab so they couldn't track it. Wrote the essay during lunch breaks. Sent it off without telling anyone. I never thought. I pulled her into my arms while she sobbed. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of a dream she'd thought was dead, suddenly resurrecting. You did this, I said fiercely, all by yourself. You found a way. That's who you are, Emily. That's the woman you're becoming. I start in January, if I can get out by then. You will, I promise you. You're going to walk into that program free, safe, and ready to change the world. We sat there under that magnolia tree. 2 women, one at the end of her life, one at the beginning. Planning a future neither was sure we'd survive to see, but we were going to fight for it anyway, because that's what warriors do. When you're backing a predator into a corner, you have to be ready for the moment it decides to attack. I was at the Kroger on Saturday morning shopping for groceries when Michael found me. I was reaching for a bag of rice when I felt him behind me. That particular quality of hostile presence you learn to sense in the ER when someone's about to get violent. Patricia. His voice was low, dangerous. We need to talk. I turned slowly, calmly, my hand hovering near my purse where my phone sat unlocked, recording app ready. Michael. How unexpected. He crowded into my space, 6 feet tall and using every inch to intimidate. His breath smelled like whiskey, 10 a.m. and already drunk. You think you're smart, don't you? Filing that audit, turning my wife against me, filling Emily's head with ideas about leaving. I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't play stupid with me, old woman. His hand shot out, gripping my cart. I clicked record on my phone. You're trying to destroy my family, my marriage, but I won't let you. You understand me? I understand that you're threatening me in a public place, I said evenly, and that several people are watching, including those security cameras. I nodded toward the ceiling. His eyes flickered up, uncertainty crossing his face, but rage overrode common sense. You think cameras scare me? You think anything scares me? I've got men after me who'll break every bone in my body if I don't pay them. You think I'm afraid of some legal trouble from a nosy old bitch who should have minded her own business? Touch me and see what happens, I said quietly. Pure ice. See how fast your life gets worse. For a moment, one beautiful crystalline moment, I saw him consider it. Saw him calculate whether he could hurt me before security arrived, whether he could silence me permanently. Then someone cleared their throat behind us. A Kroger manager, young black woman with a name tag reading Keisha, approached with her hand on her radio. Is there a problem here? Michael backed off immediately, hands up, mask dropping back into place. No problem, just talking to my mother-in-law. Right, Patricia? We're done talking, I said. Then to Keisha, thank you. I'm fine now. Michael left with a final glare. This isn't over. No, I agreed. It really isn't. Small victory. The entire encounter was recorded. Barbara had it transcribed within hours. The threats, the admission of debt to dangerous people, the hostile approach, evidence of erratic, dangerous behavior. But Michael's frustration boiled over in a way I hadn't anticipated. That night, Emily called 911. I got the call from her at 11:47 p.m., voice shaking. Gran, the police are here. Michael hit Mom. Really hit her. I heard the thump from my room, came out, and she was on the floor with blood coming from her lip. I called 911 before I even thought about it. Are you safe? I'm hiding in my room. The police are talking to them now. 20 minutes later, Raymond, who'd been monitoring police scanners as part of his surveillance, sent me the incident report. Officers responded to a domestic disturbance call, found Jennifer with a split lip, bruising on her cheek. Michael claimed she fell. Emily gave a witness statement contradicting that story. No arrest was made. Jennifer refused to press charges, but an official report was filed. Official record of domestic violence established. The next morning, I drove to their house. found Jennifer sitting on the front steps, ice pack against her face. "Mama," she said dully when she saw me, "come to say I told you so?" "No, come to ask if you're ready to admit you chose wrong." He didn't mean it. He was drunk, stressed about the audit. Jennifer. I sat down beside her, forced her to look at me. He threatened to kill me yesterday in Kroger, called me an old bitch who should mind her own business. Today he's hitting you. How long before he seriously hurts Emily? How long before one of you ends up in the morgue? What am I supposed to do? Leave? With what money? What prospects? I'm 40 years old, Mama. I've got nothing. You've got me. You've got a daughter who still loves you despite everything. You've got a chance to do the right thing before it's too late. But she shook her head, standing. It's already too late. I made my choice years ago. I just have to live with it now. She went inside, locked the door behind her. I sat there on those steps, looking at the house I'd helped them buy with my wedding gift money, thought about how many times I'd been here, babysitting Emily, believing we were a family, all of it poisoned, all of it lies. But Jennifer's refusal to save herself didn't matter anymore, because Emily was ready to save herself, and I had everything I needed to make sure she could. There's a particular satisfaction in watching your enemies destroy each other. You don't have to lift a finger, just provide the right pressure and let human nature do the rest. The financial noose tightened first. Raymond's anonymous tip to Michael's current employer, a car dealership where he'd lasted 3 whole months, paid off beautifully. Turns out when your salesman shows up drunk and has garnished wages for unpaid debts, employers notice. Michael was fired on a Tuesday. Jennifer called me Wednesday, voice hollow. He lost his job again. I'm sorry to hear that. I wasn't. The dealership said there were concerns about his professional conduct. What does that even mean? It meant Raymond had sent HR a carefully compiled dossier of Michael's gambling arrests, debt records, and erratic behavior. All perfectly legal public information. Just nobody had bothered to look before. Maybe it means he should get help, I suggested. She laughed bitterly. Help. Right. Because Michael Johnson takes responsibility for anything. The cracks were showing. By Thursday, the creditors came circling, calls from debt collectors, threatening letters. The underground gambling syndicate sent a representative, a man named Marcus, who showed up at their door and had a very quiet, very menacing conversation with Michael on the front lawn. Emily recorded it on her phone. Marcus, time's up, Mike, 20 grand this weekend, or we start taking payment in other ways. Michael, I'm working on it. I just need a few more days. Marcus, we're done with days. Your wife's got family with money, right? Ask nicely, because the alternative is we come back with more than words. Understand? Emily described Michael after Marcus left, pale, sweating, pacing like a caged animal. The pressure cooker was heating up. Friday night, their marriage exploded. Emily recorded it from her room. 90 minutes of the ugliest fighting I'd ever heard. Screaming, accusations, the sound of things breaking. Jennifer, this is your fault, your gambling, your debts, your inability to hold a job. Michael, my fault? Who's been enabling me? Who's been pulling money from that trust fund without question? You're just as guilty. Jennifer, because you threatened to leave me. You said if I didn't help you, you'd abandon us. Michael, maybe I should have. You're worthless, Jennifer. Weak, pathetic, clinging to your mother's apron strings. You want to know why I gamble? Because being in this house with you and that useless daughter is suffocating. Jennifer, don't you dare talk about Emily like that. Michael, why not? It's true. She's dead weight. And you know what else? I've got someone else. Someone who actually appreciates me. Melissa from the dealership. She's twice the woman you are. Silence. Then, Jennifer, you're having an affair? Michael, why do you sound surprised? You think I want to come home to you? Crash. Something heavy hitting a wall. Jennifer, get out, get out. Michael, gladly, but I'm taking what's mine. That trust fund? I'm draining every last dollar before you can stop me. You want a war? Let's have a war. Saturday morning, the rat emerged. Jennifer called me at 7 a.m., drunk and sobbing. Mama, I need help. What happened? Everything. He's leaving me. He's been cheating on me. He tried to access the trust fund last night, but it's frozen from the audit. He's saying he's going to take everything, the house, the car, everything. And those men he owes money to, they're coming back. He told them to come after me and Emily instead of him. Where is he now? Gone. Packed a bag and left. Probably at that woman's house. Mama, I'm so sorry. You were right about everything. I chose him over you, over Emily, and now it's all falling apart. I don't know what to do. This was it. Confrontation. The moment she'd break completely and give me everything I needed. Meet me at the Silver Diner, I said. 30 minutes. Come alone. She looked like hell. Unwashed hair, yesterday's clothes, eyes red from crying. We sat in a back booth and I ordered her coffee she didn't drink. Tell me everything, I said. The truth. All of it. It poured out. Years of abuse she'd hidden. Michael's gambling that started before they married. How he'd isolated her from friends, convinced her she was worthless without him. The theft from the trust fund that had started small but spiraled. How he'd threatened to leave her alone and broke if she didn't comply. I thought I could change him, Jennifer whispered. Thought my love would be enough, but he just got worse. And I got weaker. And I let him hurt my baby because I was too scared to be alone. You chose him over your daughter, I said flatly. You watched him abuse Emily and did nothing. You helped him steal from her future. Those are facts, Jennifer, not mistakes, choices. I know. Tears streamed down her face. I know, Mama, and I have to live with that, but please, help me protect Emily now. Help me get us away from him before those men come back. I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd sacrificed everything for, who'd sacrificed her own child for a man who discarded her like trash, and felt nothing. No sympathy, no forgiveness, just cold calculation. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to cooperate fully with the police and the DA's office. You're going to testify against Michael for the abuse, the theft, everything. You're going to sign over full custody of Emily to me. Not that she needs it at 19, but symbolically. And you're going to plead guilty to your part in the embezzlement and accept whatever consequences come. They'll put me in jail. Probably. For a while. Good. Maybe you'll learn something there. You're my mother. How can you be so cold? You made me cold, I said. You and your choices. Now you get to face the consequences like a grown woman, or you can refuse, and I'll make sure every ugly detail of what you've done gets exposed in court. Your choice. She stared at me, broken, then nodded. Okay, I'll do it. Whatever it takes to keep Emily safe now. Good, go home. Pack a bag for you and Emily. You're both staying with me until this is resolved. And Jennifer? I leaned forward. If you ever put a man before your daughter again, you're dead to me. Understand? Yes, Mama. That night, Jennifer and Emily moved into my house. Michael sent threatening texts that went straight to police. The villains had turned on each other, and now they'd both face judgment. But Michael's reckoning would be more severe, because I wasn't done with him yet. Justice moves slowly until it doesn't, until all the pieces align and the hammer falls so fast you barely see it coming. Barbara's office. Monday morning was a war room, files everywhere, 3 lawyers huddled over documents, Raymond presenting his complete surveillance package. We've got everything, Barbara said, spreading it across the conference table. Financial crimes, domestic violence, threats, harassment. But the DA wants to make sure this sticks. No plea deals that let him walk. We're building an airtight case. Raymond's dossier was a masterpiece. 200 pages documenting Michael's life of crime. 73 separate instances of gambling at various establishments. complete financial records showing $47,950 stolen from Emily's trust, 14 recorded threats against Emily and Jennifer, 8 recorded instances of physical abuse, documentation of underground gambling debts totaling $60,000 proof of employment fraud and theft from multiple employers. The DA's office is preparing charges, Barbara continued. Embezzlement, domestic battery, financial exploitation, making terroristic threats. We're looking at 5 to 7 years prison time if convicted on all counts. What about Jennifer? I asked. She's cooperating. Her testimony is crucial. In exchange, the DA is offering probation, mandatory therapy, and community service instead of jail time. She'll lose custody rights. Not that Emily needs them anymore, but she won't serve time if she holds up her end. I nodded. Jennifer didn't deserve my mercy, but Emily didn't deserve to lose both parents to prison. Susan's witness statement was devastating in its clinical precision. As a retired police officer with 30 years of experience, I observed multiple indicators of ongoing domestic violence at the Johnson residence. On at least 4 occasions, I witnessed the minor child Emily Johnson with visible bruising inconsistent with accidental injury. On 2 occasions, I heard shouting and sounds of physical altercation from inside the home. The pattern of behavior I observed matches textbook cases of chronic abuse. Nancy added her professional assessment. Emily Johnson presents with symptoms consistent with chronic trauma and PTSD resulting from sustained emotional and physical abuse. Her testimony is credible, detailed, and corroborated by physical evidence. In my professional opinion, she was living in an environment of ongoing danger. Emily's victim impact statement, the one she'd been working on with Nancy for weeks, was the most powerful piece. She read it to me one evening in my living room, voice shaking but strong. My stepfather, Michael Johnson, stole more than money from me. He stole my sense of safety, my belief that adults would protect me, my trust that family meant love. Every bruise he gave me, every insult, every threat, those are marks that don't fade even when the physical evidence does. But he didn't break me, because I had one person who never stopped fighting for me. My grandmother showed me what real strength looks like. Not violence or intimidation, but patience, planning, and refusing to accept injustice. I'm not asking for mercy for him. I'm asking for justice, so that no other girl has to hand someone a note that says, "Help me, please," and wonder if anyone will actually answer. When she finished, we both sat in silence. "That's perfect," I finally said. "You're perfect." The protective order came through Wednesday. Michael was barred from contacting Emily, Jennifer, or me. Barred from coming within 500 feet of my house. Barred from any attempt to access the trust fund or any property belonging to Emily. Small victory, number 6. The legal machinery was in motion. No turning back now. But Michael, backed into a corner, made one last desperate play. They served Michael the restraining order at his new address, a dumpy apartment he'd rented with his girlfriend Melissa's money. Wednesday afternoon, middle of his shift at yet another sales job. 2 police officers walked into the car dealership, papers in hand. Michael Johnson? Every co-worker watching, every customer staring. Public humiliation, perfectly timed. Michael read the order, face going from pale to purple. "This is bullshit. My crazy mother-in-law is trying to destroy my life." "Sir, you need to comply with the order," the officer said. "Any violation will result in immediate arrest." He crumpled the paper. "She can't do this. That's my family, my house." Actually, the officer continued, "the house is in Jennifer Johnson's name only, as is the trust fund for Emily Johnson. You have no legal claim to either." Raymond had made sure of that detail. Michael had never been on the deed, never been a trustee. He'd manipulated his way into accessing everything without actually owning anything. Now he was being publicly evicted from a life he'd never legally had. His boss called him into the office 30 minutes later, fired on the spot. "We can't have employees with active protective orders and police involvement, liability issue." Michael exploded on social media, angry, rambling posts about family betrayal and being falsely accused that only made him look unhinged. Melissa dumped him by Friday when she discovered his gambling debts and the fact that he'd been lying about everything. The creditors found him at his new apartment. The men from College Park gave him one final warning. 48 hours, find 20 grand or start saying goodbye to people you care about. In a panic, Michael tried to access the trust fund online, discovered it was frozen pending criminal investigation, tried to call Jennifer, blocked number, tried to show up at my house, police waiting, had him arrested for violating the protective order. Confrontation number 3. He'd been in custody maybe 10 minutes when they brought him out to the patrol car. I was standing on my porch, watching. "You," he screamed, fighting against the cuffs. "You did this. You manipulative old bitch. You destroyed my life." I walked down my steps, slowly, calmly, stood at the property line, the legal 500 feet of separation. "No, Michael," I said clearly. "You destroyed your own life. I just documented it. I'll get out of this. I'll sue you for everything." "With what money? Your gambling debts? The career you don't have? The wife who's testifying against you?" I smiled. Cold. Final. "You're finished. And my granddaughter? She's free." They drove him away screaming threats. But they were empty now. He had no power, no resources, no allies, just consequences waiting in a courtroom. And me? I went back inside, made myself tea, and waited for the next phase. Because we weren't done yet. The reckoning was just beginning. There's a particular kind of morning that feels like the world exhaling after holding its breath too long. Sunday, November 3rd was that morning. The moving truck arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, a small U-Haul I'd rented under my name. Emily had exactly 1 bedroom's worth of belongings to extract from that house of horrors. Clothes, books, her laptop, a few precious photos of us from when she was small. Everything else could burn for all we cared. I drove her there with Susan riding shotgun, retired cop turned unofficial bodyguard. 2 uniformed officers waited in their patrol car across the street, courtesy of Barbara's coordination with APD. Michael was still in county lockup on the restraining order violation, but Jennifer was there, and we weren't taking chances. Emily's hands shook as we pulled up. "I never thought I'd leave this place. Never thought I'd be allowed to leave." "You're not leaving, baby," I corrected gently. "You're escaping. Big difference." Jennifer opened the door before we knocked. She looked smaller somehow, like Michael's absence had deflated her. Sober, at least, which was something. "Emily," she said, voice cracking, "you don't have to do this. We can work things out. It's just us now. We could—" "No, Mom." Emily's voice was steady, stronger than I'd heard in years. "I'm 19, I have a job, a college acceptance, and a grandmother who actually protects me. This isn't abandonment, it's survival." We moved past her into Emily's room. The walls were still decorated with posters from middle school, remnants of a childhood that had been slowly murdered by violence and fear. Emily packed methodically, and I helped fold clothes while Susan kept watch. 20 minutes in, tires screeched outside. Michael's truck. He'd been released on bond somehow, probably borrowed money from another enabler. He burst through the front door like a hurricane made of rage and desperation. "Nobody's taking anything from my house." The officers were inside within seconds, but Michael was already charging toward Emily's room. I stepped between them, arms spread wide. "One more step," I said quietly. "Give them one more reason to add to your charges." He stopped inches from me, breathing hard, eyes wild. He reeked of cheap vodka and 3 days without showering. This close, I could see the full deterioration. Broken capillaries in his nose, yellowed eyes, the tremor in his hands. "She's my daughter." "Stepdaughter," Susan corrected from behind me. "And there's a protective order. You're violating it right now." "I don't care about some piece of paper," Michael roared. "Patricia, you think you're so smart, think you've won, but I'll destroy you. I'll tell everyone what a manipulative—" "Mr. Johnson," Officer Martinez said firmly, hand on his cuffed restraint. You're already in violation of a court order. Don't make this worse." But Michael was beyond reason. His life was collapsing in real time, and he needed someone to blame. He lunged, not at me, but toward Emily's room, trying to grab her belongings, to destroy something, anything. That's when they tackled him. Thud. Michael face down on the carpet, 2 officers pinning him while he bucked and screamed. The cuffs went on with practiced efficiency. Click, click. "Michael Johnson, you're under arrest for violating a protective order, trespassing and disturbing the peace. You have the right to remain silent." They hauled him up, and that's when our eyes met. His, full of impotent fury. Mine, calm as Sunday morning. "You hit my grandbaby," I said, each word a nail in his coffin. "You terrorized her for years. You stole her future to feed your addiction. Did you really think there'd be no reckoning?" "You don't understand," he wailed, the mask finally shattering completely. "I had debts, pressure. If you'd just helped me, if Jennifer had been a better wife, if Emily hadn't been so damn needy." There it was, the pathetic truth beneath all the violence. A man so broken by his own choices that he blamed everyone else for consequences he'd earned. "This is your fault," he screamed as they dragged him toward the door. "All of you. My parents never supported me. My teachers said I'd fail. Jennifer trapped me with pregnancy. You turned my own family against me. None of this is my fault." The patrol car door slammed shut on his tantrum. Within seconds, his voice was muffled, then gone. Just another criminal being transported to face justice he claimed he didn't deserve. Jennifer collapsed on the couch, sobbing. What have I done? What have I let happen? But I had no comfort for her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. We finished packing Emily's things in silence, loaded the truck while Jennifer watched from the window, a ghost haunting the life she'd wrecked. Before we left, Emily paused at the doorway, looked back at her mother one last time. "I hope you find yourself, Mom," she said quietly, "the person you were before him, but I can't wait around to see if you will. I have to save myself now." Jennifer nodded, tears streaming. "I know, I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry." We drove away from that house, Emily in the passenger seat, her entire life compressed into boxes in the back. She didn't look back, didn't cry, just stared forward at the road ahead. "How do you feel?" I asked. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, light, like I've been carrying rocks in my chest for years, and someone finally removed them. Is that wrong? Should I be sadder? "Baby girl, you've been sad your whole life. You're allowed to feel relief." That evening, we unpacked her boxes into my guest room, now her room, hung her clothes in the closet, set up her desk for studying, made the bed with fresh sheets that smelled like lavender instead of fear. Emily stood in the doorway looking at her new space, and for the first time in years, she smiled, really smiled. "I'm home," she whispered. "Yes," I agreed. "You're finally home." The Fulton County Courthouse is a brutalist concrete monument to justice, cold, imposing, exactly what it needs to be. We arrived on a gray January morning, the kind where Atlanta forgets it's in the South and pretends to be Boston. Barbara met us outside, briefcase in hand, wearing her courtroom armor, navy suit, minimal jewelry, expression that could cut glass. "You ready?" Emily nodded. She'd chosen her outfit carefully. Conservative dress, light makeup, hair pulled back. She looked older than 19. Trauma ages you like that. "Remember," Barbara said, "just tell the truth. Don't embellish, don't minimize. The evidence speaks for itself. You just have to speak for you." The courtroom was smaller than TV makes you think. 20 rows of benches, fluorescent lights that hummed like dying insects, the state seal hanging behind the judge's bench. Michael sat at the defense table in an ill-fitting suit. Public defender whispering urgently in his ear. He'd lost weight in jail, not the healthy kind, the kind that comes from stress and commissary food. He didn't look at us when we entered. Cowered to the end. Jennifer sat on our side 3 rows behind the prosecution. She'd honored her plea deal, was here to testify against him. The circles under her eyes said she hadn't slept in weeks. All rise for the Honorable Judge Constance Whitmore. Judge Whitmore was a black woman in her 60s, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that had seen every excuse, every manipulation, every lie a defendant could conjure. Barbara had called her fair but unforgiving of abusers. Perfect. The prosecution's case was a masterclass in systematic destruction. Assistant District Attorney Marcus Webb laid out the charges one by one. Count 1, embezzlement of $47,850 from the Emily Johnson Education Trust Fund. Raymond's financial records appeared on the courtroom screen, spreadsheets showing every withdrawal, every casino visit, every debt payment made with stolen money, Michael's signature on withdrawal authorizations, Jennifer's complicit approvals. Count 2, domestic battery against minor child Emily Johnson. Photos of Emily's bruises, time-stamped and documented. Susan's witness statement, Nancy's psychological evaluation, Emily's own journal entries, written in shaky handwriting. He grabbed my arm so hard I thought it would break. Mom just watched. Count 3, making terroristic threats. The recording of Michael threatening to kill me played through the courtroom speakers. His voice, slurred with alcohol. Old bitch is onto us, need to shut her up, maybe she needs to have an accident. Michael flinched. His lawyer objected weakly. Context, Your Honor. But there was no context that made death threats acceptable. Count 4, financial exploitation of an at-risk adult. The emails about declaring me incompetent, Michael's plan to seize my assets, his callous dismissal of my humanity. She's old. She's had her life. By the time ADA Webb rested the prosecution's case, the jury looked nauseated. Emily took the stand at 2 p.m. She placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and sat in that wooden chair like she'd been preparing for this moment her entire life, which in a way she had. Miss Johnson, Webb began gently, can you describe the environment you lived in under Michael Johnson's care? Emily's voice didn't shake. It was like living with a bomb you knew would eventually explode. You just didn't know when. Some days he'd ignore me completely. Other days, he'd find any excuse to scream, to threaten, to hurt me. I stopped wearing short sleeves because I was always hiding bruises. Can you describe a specific incident? Last April, I asked if I could apply for a part-time job at Target. He said I was too stupid to work retail. When I tried to defend myself, he grabbed my arm. She held up her forearm, showing the scar of faded bruises, dragged me to my room and locked me in from the outside. I was there for 6 hours with no food, no bathroom access. When I finally got out, he told me if I complained to anyone, he'd make sure my grandmother never saw me again. She looked directly at Michael. He couldn't meet her eyes. And your mother? Where was she during this abuse? Watching or hiding or drunk, she knew. She always knew. But she never stopped him. The jury was riveted. Several women had tears in their eyes. What made you finally ask for help? I realized I was going to die there. Maybe not physically, though that was possible, but spiritually. He was killing who I was piece by piece. So I wrote a note, 4 words, help me, please. And I gave it to the only person I knew would actually answer, my grandmother. I gripped the bench in front of me, fighting my own tears. The defense attorney's cross-examination was brief and ineffective. He tried to suggest Emily was exaggerating, but the evidence was overwhelming. He tried to paint me as manipulative, but Emily shut that down immediately. My grandmother saved my life. She's the only adult who ever protected me. If that's manipulation, I wish someone had manipulated my childhood sooner. Jennifer's testimony was harder to watch. She admitted everything. The theft, the complicity, the enabling. Described how Michael had isolated her, convinced her she was worthless without him, threatened to leave her alone and destitute if she didn't help him. I chose wrong, she said, voice breaking. I chose my fear of being alone over my daughter's safety. I chose a man who hurt us over my own mother who loved us. Those choices destroyed my family, and I'll live with that guilt forever." "Do you take responsibility?" Webb asked. "Completely. I failed Emily. I failed my mother. I failed myself." "Why are you testifying against Michael Johnson?" "Because he needs to face consequences. Because maybe if someone had stopped him years ago, we wouldn't be here. Because my daughter deserves justice, even if I don't deserve forgiveness." The defense presented Michael's prior arrest record, something Barbara had uncovered that had been sealed because he was a juvenile at the time. Assault charge at 19. He'd beaten his college girlfriend so badly she needed stitches, pleaded down to a misdemeanor, completed anger management classes that clearly hadn't worked. "A pattern of violence spanning 20 years, Webb said, multiple victims, escalating behavior, and finally he targeted someone who couldn't fight back, a child in his care." Michael's lawyer tried to present a sob story. Difficult childhood, absent father, economic stress, but Judge Whitmore cut him off. "Save it. This court has heard every excuse. I've seen abusers blame everyone but themselves for 30 years. Mr. Johnson had opportunities to change. He chose violence instead." The jury deliberated for 90 minutes, came back with verdicts on all counts: guilty, 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 guilty. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. "Michael Johnson," Judge Whitmore said, looking at him with cold contempt, "you are sentenced to 7 years in Georgia State Prison. Enhanced sentencing for crimes against a child of the household. No parole eligibility for 5 years. Financial restitution? You will repay $180,000 to the Emily Johnson Trust Fund, plus $50,000 in damages for emotional distress. Every penny you earn in prison and after release will be garnished until this debt is paid in full." Michael sagged in his seat. 7 years. The gambling debts would wait for him outside, his reputation destroyed, his future obliterated. Jennifer's sentencing was lighter: 2 years probation, mandatory therapy, 500 hours community service. No jail time thanks to her cooperation. "Mrs. Johnson," Whitmore said, "you enabled this abuse. That makes you culpable. But you also stopped it. That matters. Use this probation to become the woman your daughter deserved from the beginning." "Yes, Your Honor," Jennifer whispered. Outside the courthouse, news cameras were waiting. Family court cases were usually private, but the severity of the charges had drawn attention. Emily held her head high. "I want other kids in abusive homes to know. It's not normal. It's not okay. And there are people who will help you if you're brave enough to ask." Barbara stood beside her, proud. "This case proves that survivors can find justice when they have support systems who believe them." I stayed in the background. This was Emily's moment, not mine. But as we walked to the car, she grabbed my hand. "We did it, Gran." "No, baby, you did it. You were brave enough to ask for help." I just answered. Justice had been served. Now came the harder part: healing. 6 months after the trial, I found myself in a place I'd never expected to be: genuinely happy. Emily was thriving at Georgia State's nursing program. Her professors raved about her dedication, her empathy, her natural talent for patient care. "She's going to be an exceptional nurse," one told me at Parents' Weekend. "She has this way of making people feel safe, like she truly understands suffering." She understood, all right, had lived it, was transforming it into purpose. Our routine had become a kind of meditation on healing. Mornings started with coffee on the porch, Emily studying anatomy flashcards while I did crossword puzzles. Evenings meant cooking together, her teaching me TikTok recipes while I taught her my mama's secrets for perfect cornbread. "Gran, you have to add the buttermilk slowly," she'd say, laughing as I dumped it in too fast. "Baby, I was making cornbread before you were a sparkle in your daddy's eye. Don't lecture me." But I'd slow down and we'd laugh, and the kitchen would fill with warmth that had nothing to do with the oven. Study sessions at my dining table reminded me why I'd sacrificed so much for Jennifer's education. watching Emily master complex medical concepts, seeing her confidence grow with every exam she aced. That was the legacy I'd wanted. Not the broken woman Jennifer had become, but this brilliant young woman Emily was becoming. "Pharmacology test tomorrow," she announced one Tuesday, surrounded by color-coded notes. "Quiz me? Hit me with your worst. What's the difference between ACE inhibitors and ARBs? Baby, I retired before half these drugs existed, but I'm proud of you for knowing." She grinned. "You're supposed to help me study, not admit defeat." "I'm helping by believing in you. Sometimes that's all the help that matters." Jennifer's transformation was slower, more uncertain. She'd completed rehab, 30 days inpatient. Now attending AA meetings 3 times a week, found a job at a nonprofit helping domestic violence survivors, turning her shame into service, attended therapy religiously, confronting decades of poor choices and broken boundaries. She called every Sunday. I answered about half the time. "Mama," she'd say, voice small, "I completed my 6th month sober today." "That's good, Jennifer. Keep going." "I'm working on my amends. To Emily, to you. I know words aren't enough, but I'm trying to show through actions that I've changed." Actions take time to prove themselves. Keep showing up. Some Sundays she'd cry, apologizing again for everything. Those calls I'd cut short. "I've heard your apologies. Now I need to see your consistency." The truth was, I didn't know if I'd ever truly forgive her. Forgiveness felt like a gift she hadn't earned, might never earn. But I was open to the possibility of reconciliation. Distant, conditional, heavily monitored. Emily was less generous. "Has Mom called you?" I'd ask sometimes. "Yeah, I don't answer." "You don't have to, but someday you might want to." "Maybe, but not now. Not while I'm building myself into someone strong enough to stand next to her without falling apart. She broke something in me, Gran, and I'm gluing the pieces back together, but they don't fit the same anymore. That's okay. Sometimes broken things heal stronger than they were before. You're not the same girl who handed me that note. You're better." Emily's eyes filled. "You think?" "I know." The trust fund was fully restored. Michael's assets seized, sold, and deposited back into Emily's future. I'd added something else, too. My house, transferred into a trust that would become Emily's upon my death. "Gran, you can't give me your house," she'd protested. "Why not? You think I need it in the ground. This place is yours, baby. Your home, your security. No one will ever take it from you." She'd cried for an hour, holding me tight. Money couldn't erase trauma, but it could provide options, security, the freedom to heal without financial desperation nipping at your heels. One evening in July, we sat on the porch watching fireflies dance in the dusk. Emily had just finished her first clinical rotation, 12-hour shifts of bedpans and IVs and patients who reminded her why she'd chosen this path. "You know what I realized today?" she said quietly. "What's that?" I helped a woman who came into the ER with bruises she claimed were from falling downstairs. But I saw the finger marks under the makeup, saw the way she flinched when her husband approached, and I knew, because I'd lived it. "What did you do?" I slipped her a resource card, phone number for the women's shelter, whispered that help was available if she wanted it, just like you helped me. My throat tightened, and she took the card, hid it in her shoe, and when I saw her eyes, that mixture of hope and terror, I understood why you fought so hard for me, because one person believing in you can change everything. We sat in silence, watching darkness settle over the neighborhood. Somewhere in that darkness, Michael was in a prison cell contemplating his choices. Jennifer was in a halfway house apartment, trying to rebuild. But here, on this porch, 2 women who'd survived were choosing to thrive. "Do you ever regret it?" Emily asked. "All the time and energy you spent saving me, you could have just let it go. Let me figure it out." "Baby girl," I said, taking her hand, "you were 19 years old, trapped in an abusive home, being stolen from and beaten. There was no figuring it out. There was only escape or destruction. I chose your escape because you're worth fighting for. You've always been worth fighting for. I'll never be able to repay you. Don't repay me. Pay it forward. Be the nurse who sees what others miss. Be the person who answers when someone hands you a note that says, "Help me, please." That's the only payment I need. Emily wiped her eyes, nodding. I can do that. I know you can, because you're stronger than you know, stronger than I was at your age. And you're going to do extraordinary things with that strength. Looking back now, I understand the cost of silence versus the power of action. For years, I suspected abuse, but didn't intervene. Afraid of overstepping, of being wrong, of damaging relationships beyond repair. But silence protects abusers. It enables them. It tells victims they're alone in their suffering. Action, even when it's messy, even when it destroys families, even when it means facing betrayal from your own child. Action saves lives. Emily's life was saved because I refused to be quiet, because I documented, strategized, and weaponized the legal system against a man who thought he was untouchable. The cost was my relationship with Jennifer, maybe permanently damaged, maybe mendable with time. But the alternative was watching Emily's spirit die slowly, watching her potential evaporate under Michael's cruelty, watching another generation of women accept abuse as inevitable. I couldn't live with that alternative, so I chose war, and we won. That note Emily gave me 6 months ago, crumpled, desperate, 4 words that changed everything, sits framed on my mantle now. A reminder of the moment everything shifted. The moment a victim became a survivor and a grandmother became a warrior. Help me, please. I did, baby girl. We helped each other, and now we're both finally beautifully free. If you've ever had to fight for the people you love against impossible odds, drop a like. Tell me which city you're from in the comments, because justice isn't just a courtroom verdict, it's the choice to stand up when everyone else is sitting down. It's the decision to believe someone when they whisper their truth. It's the refusal to accept cruelty as normal. Family should be your safe harbor, and when it becomes your storm, you fight your way to shore, no matter how long it takes. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and remember, no one dims your light without consequence. Friends, let me tell you something about family betrayal that nobody wants to admit. Sometimes the people who share your blood are the ones who bleed you dry. We're taught from childhood that family is sacred, that you forgive family, that you stand by family no matter what. But here's the truth they don't put on greeting cards. Being family doesn't give anyone the right to destroy you. There's a difference between forgiveness and accountability. Forgiveness is personal, something you do for your own peace, in your own time, if ever. But accountability? That's justice. That's protecting others from the harm someone caused you. You can forgive someone and still demand they face consequences. Those two things aren't contradictory. They're complementary. Michael didn't need my forgiveness. He needed prison. Jennifer didn't need my understanding. She needed to confront who she'd become and do the hard work of changing. And Emily? She didn't need to get over it. She needed safety, support, and the space to heal. Abuse thrives in silence. It grows in the dark corners where people are too afraid or too ashamed to speak up. But sunlight? Sunlight kills it. Documentation kills it. Legal action kills it. Refusing to pretend everything's fine kills it. I'm 68 years old. Some people think that means I should be quiet, grateful, fading into the background. But let me tell you something. Being old doesn't mean being helpless. It means having decades of experience, connections, and the wisdom to know when to be patient and when to burn everything down to save what matters. Being family doesn't mean accepting cruelty. It means protecting the vulnerable, even when, especially when, the threat comes from inside the house. 8 months after the trial, I stood in the parking lot of Grady Memorial Hospital watching Emily walk into her first day of clinical rotations. She wore scrubs I'd helped her pick out, carried a stethoscope I'd gifted her, and pinned to her chest was my old nursing pin. the one I'd worn for 40 years, tarnished but treasured. For courage, I'd told her when I gave it to her. So you remember where you came from and why you're here. She hugged me tight. I won't let you down, Gran. Baby girl, you couldn't if you tried. That afternoon, Emily called me from the hospital. Gran, you won't believe what happened. There was a woman in the ER, came in with a sports injury that looked suspiciously like someone grabbed her throat. I saw the fear in her eyes. So I did what you did for me. I slipped her a resource card, told her help was available. She cried and took it. My heart swelled. That's my girl. I told her, you're not alone, and there's someone out there who'll fight for you if you're brave enough to ask. Full circle. The lesson carried forward. One generation of warriors raising the next. See? Here's what Michael and Jennifer didn't understand about that crumpled note Emily handed me. They thought it was a cry for help from a powerless girl. It was actually a declaration of war from 2 generations of strong Black women who'd had enough. We didn't just survive. We conquered. We transformed. We became the answer to our own prayers. Now I want to hear from you. Which city are you from? Have you ever had to fight for family or fight against family to save someone you loved? Drop a like if you believe justice isn't just about courtrooms, but about refusing to stay silent when cruelty tries to hide in plain sight. Because that note changed everything. And your voice? It could change everything for someone else. Stay strong out there. And remember, no one dims your light without consequence.